And we are back with the fifth and the final segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this final segment, we're going to be doing some predictions. There are tons of teams that are going to be playing tonight. There's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games that are going to be going on tonight. Obviously, not all of them are going to be televised, but I'm going to give my predictions for all 10 of these games and which team I think is going to prevail in for their opening week and their respective games. So we might as well start off with the easy one, the one that's going to be televised on ESPN, the 76ers going up against the Bucks. I think the Bucks are going to end up coming out in this game. Now, I do know I've made my criticisms about Darvin Ham, and I made my criticisms about Doc Rivers, who are going to be the most amazing, fantastic coaching duo that has ever been seen in NBA history. Obvious sarcasm. But really, I mean, with Joel Embiid not playing in this game, and with Paul George also not playing in this game, I don't really think the 76ers have much of a chance. Now, they do play at home, which is really like the only advantage that they have against the Milwaukee Bucks now. Because, I mean, Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's going to do Giannis Antetokounmpo things. Damian Lillard, we'll see if he's in shape for the season, and we'll see if he actually sort of adapted to the system that the Milwaukee Bucks are going to run. I mean, we'll see. The Doc Rivers system and the Darvin Ham system is really... it's quite pitiful, but again, I don't really think that's going to matter in this game. I don't think coaching is going to matter. I think the overall peak performance coming in from Giannis and Dame is what's going to matter, and they'll end up overpowering the 76ers in their matchups. Now, maybe Maxey is going to go off in this game, but I don't really see that happening, and if so, I think Giannis is going to be able to match in that production. So, if Maxey scores 30, I think Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to finish with 32, and so on and so forth. But again, we'll see, because Maxey does end up taking more three-pointers than Giannis Antetokounmpo. So if he ends up making a lot of those three-pointers, then there's a pretty good chance that they... Well, I still don't think it's a pretty good chance that they'll end up winning due to the star power of Dame and Giannis Antetokounmpo, but we'll see. So for that game, I picked the Bucks to win easily. Now, some of the other games that aren't going to be nationally televised, we have the Nets matching up against the Atlanta Hawks at 7:30. I think the Hawks are going to easily win this game with the Nets. The Nets are going to rebuild this season. They're a rebuilding team, and this is not only do they have a whole new roster, well, not really a whole new roster, but they don't really have a definite star on the team. And I think that this is the year where they're going to tank. And, they're purposely going to start losing all of these games. Now, I don't think that the tank isn't going to come until maybe much later, but I still think that the Atlanta Hawks are going to end up prevailing in this game. They're going to get Trae Young. He's going to play good. They have home field advantage. They're also 6.5-point favorites in this matchup, and I don't really think I don't really think that the Nets really have much of a chance in this matchup. Just based off of, I understand that the Atlanta Hawks are not really the best of teams, but they do still have Trae Young. We get to see how well Zachary is going to end up playing in this game, if he does end up playing in this game, the number 1 pick in the draft. So we'll see exactly how he'll progress and how well he's going to play. And who knows, maybe he could end up winning Rookie of the Year. He is the number 1 pick after all, but we'll see. Not entirely sure. So I have the Hawks winning in this game. Now, let's see, what should be the next game that we cover? The Pacers going up against the Pistons. I think the Pacers are easily going to win this game. The Pistons last year, they were one of the worst teams in the NBA, and I don't really expect that to change whatsoever for the Detroit Pistons. Now, maybe they surprise me. Maybe they end up winning opening night. They do play at home. They still have Cade Cunningham. He's a very solid option. But again, the Pacers and their offensive firepower, it's just, it's really, really difficult to stop. At the same time, however, the Pacers and their defense it was lackluster throughout last season. So regardless of that, I still think the Pacers are going to end up winning this game rather comfortably. But if the game is close or if the Pistons somehow prevail, I really wouldn't be all that surprised, because when you have a team like the Pacers who are potent on offense but less than mediocre on defense, anything is possible because they rely heavily on the three-point shot. They could end up missing a lot of their three-pointers, and there's a possibility that they let up a lot of easy baskets for the Pistons, thus allowing the Pistons to end up winning the game in the end. But still, I have the Pacers as favorites to win this game. Next game is a Florida matchup between the Miami Heat and the one and only Orlando Magic. Orlando Magic. So I think the Magic are going to end up winning in this matchup. I have some huge faith in Paolo Banchero, and the Orlando Magic actually ended up getting better throughout the offseason. Now, actually, you know what? I take that back. I'm going to learn from my mistake from the previous day about how I ended up picking the Knicks to win as opposed to the team that has already played together and has already established their identity. I'm going to pick the Miami Heat in this one. Now, it's going to be a close game. I do think it's going to be a close game. But the Miami Heat, they don't really, I understand KCP is a very solid player, so there is a possibility that the Magic come out and win. But the Heat, they already have the chemistry that they've established with the team. Jimmy Butler is going to be playing in this game alongside with Bam Adebayo. And while the Magic, they do have Paolo and they have Franz Wagner, and KCP is a very solid option as well, along with Jalen Suggs, who was a defensive caliber player and one of the best defending guards that the league has. I don't really think that the Magic are going to end up winning this game just because of the fact that it's going to be a new roster going up against a roster that has already played with each other. And while they didn't make it that far in the postseason, a big reason why they didn't was because they did not have their best player. So I'm going to pick Miami in this one, in this intense Florida matchup, and possibly a future playoff matchup. Who knows, depending on how the rankings and the seedings go. Next game is the Cavs going up against the Toronto Raptors. Now, this one I am a little bit uncertain of. Now, Cleveland is 6.5-point favorites, and I do have to give I do agree with that. I do think that Cleveland is going to end up prevailing in this game, but I do think it's going to be a really close battle. And part of that is because I don't really have that much faith in Garland, and I have a lot of faith in Scotty Barnes and his ability to play. But I do think that the Cavs overall as a roster, they're a much better team than the Raptors. And while the Cavs didn't necessarily improve over the offseason, they still were able to keep a lot of their main players. Now, the one concern that I do have is if there's going to be any more Cavs drama throughout the offseason. Because if you guys remember, throughout a majority of the offseason, like about half of my segments were Cavs drama, because it was like every single week there would be something new going on with the Cavs. It was like Darius Garland wants to get traded. If Donovan Mitchell's going to sign a contract, then Darius Garland wants out. Maybe the Cavs are going to end up blowing up the roster. Maybe the Cavs are going to have to pick between Donovan or Darius Garland. Maybe the Cavs are just going to rely on Evan Mobley and trade away Donovan and Darius Garland. It was so much unnecessary stuff that I was just unexpecting, and it was like unnecessary in my opinion. And in the end of the day, they ended up re-signing all of their players anyway and still have the same team that ended up making the postseason. So I think the Cavs, I'm assuming there's still no drama and that all of that drama was actually real. I think the Cavs are going to end up prevailing in this game. Next is the matchup between the Pelicans and the Chicago Bulls. Now, I'm not really that high on the Bulls, even though they just acquired Lonzo Ball. This is going to be a rematch with Lonzo Ball's former team after missing like around a year or two due to injuries. And really, I think the Pelicans, they're going to end up prevailing in this game. They got Zion, they're gonna have DeJounte Murray, they're gonna get CJ McCollum. I expect a big game from CJ in opening night and a pretty solid game coming in from DeJounte as well. However, I will say that the Bulls, they will make this game a little bit competitive due to the lack of rim protection that the Pelicans have. Like, the Pelicans don't have a definite rim protector or a solid center that I feel could match up with Vucevic. But again, the Bulls didn't really, you could argue that the Bulls didn't really get that much better losing DeMar DeRozan. They will have Zach LaVine in this game from what I know, and Alex Caruso is an incredibly solid defender as well. But again, I don't really, oh wait, no, excuse me, they don't have Alex Caruso. That's my bad. I completely forgot. Alex Caruso's on the, is not even on the roster anymore. That's my bad. I actually meant to say that Giddey was on the roster. They do have a very solid offensive option in Giddey, and you know, his assist numbers, regardless of what he does off the court. I'm not really going to talk about that, even though you guys know exactly what he did off the court. He's a pretty solid player on the offensive side of the ball. So we'll see. New environment. We'll see how he plays, see if he blossoms into a player. For personal reasons, I don't want him to. But we're going to move on from that. Next is the Houston Rockets going up against the Charlotte Hornets. I think the Houston Rockets are going to end up prevailing in this game. The Hornets, they weren't one of the best teams last year. They do have LaMelo Ball, so that's one positive coming in for the Hornets. I think they're going to have him for this opening game. There was no report saying that he was going to get injured. I'm going to go ahead and check just to be sure. Let me see. Yeah, no, he's apparently, from what I hear, he is good to go for this game. He was good to go for the Knicks game, but I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I don't think he's hurt. So, but regardless of that, if he was hurt, if he is hurt, if he isn't hurt, I think the Houston Rockets, they are just a much better team. They got Sengun. They also have Shepherd, who's going to, I expect Reed Shepherd to have a pretty solid game. But again, he is a rookie, so if he doesn't have a solid game, it's not going to surprise me. But Sengun is really going to take this team to the next level, and he's really going to, I think he's going to have a very good game against the Charlotte Hornets, a team that I don't think has that dominant of a rim protector, in my opinion. Now, next matchup, the Jazz, they're going up against the Memphis Grizzlies. I have Memphis winning in this game. They're going to have John Morant, they're going to have Zach Edey, and they're still going to have the competent roster that they've usually had. The big reason why they were so bad last season was because of injuries and because that John Morant was out in the beginning of the season due to his off-the-court problems, as well as an injury later on in the season that sidelined him for the rest of the season. So, but aside from that, assuming that Ja doesn't get hurt in this game, I do think that the Grizzlies are going to end up prevailing and beating the Jazz, because I'm not all that high on the Jazz. Now, they do have Lauri Markkanen, but again, I'm not a big fan of Lauri Markkanen as the number one option on a team. Don't really see them winning out in this game. And finally, the last game that I'm going to talk about, and the game that's going to be televised, the Clippers, they're going to end up playing the Phoenix Suns in this matchup. As you guys know, Kevin Durant going up against James Harden, former teammates, now enemies in the Western Conference, as well as former teammates in the Eastern Conference, and then enemies in the Western Conference. They were teamed up with each other for a little bit of their career, not throughout the entirety of their career, but for a little bit they played with each other. But regardless, I think that the Phoenix Suns are going to end up prevailing in this game. And Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. Meanwhile, the Clippers, they only really have James Harden. I don't think there's going to be any sort of matchup. If they had Kawhi, then the story would be a little bit different. But because they're not going to have Kawhi in this game, I think the Phoenix Suns are going to have no problem. There is no real competent perimeter defenders that they have that will be able to slow down Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal at the same time. Even if Bradley Beal doesn't have a good game, I'm expecting an incredibly solid game for Devin Booker as well as Kevin Durant. I expect Kevin Durant to have at least 24 points and Devin Booker to have at least 23, maybe along with like 7 assists as well, and Bradley Beal with a really solid 20-point game. Like, those are my expectations for the Suns, and because of that, I think they're and I also forgot to mention, I think that coming off the bench for the Phoenix Suns, hold on just one second, let me just go ahead and make sure that I don't misspell his name, because that would be rather embarrassing if I did. I don't think we're going to see a Bol sighting, though. Like, maybe we will, maybe we won't, not entirely sure. But Grayson Allen, I feel like Grayson Allen is also going to be a really important X factor in this game. Not that it really matters, but I do think he is going to be the reason why the Phoenix Suns win by a lot or why they win by a little bit. And I think he's going to end up hitting at the very least 5 3-pointers in this game and end the game with a respectable 15 points. And again, like this is just my expectations for the scoring between all of these players. They also have an addition with Tyus Jones, who could be a very solid point guard for them going into this game. I have no idea how the starting lineup is going to look like. I don't know if they're going to continue playing Devin Booker at the point guard position, even though I think they should, because he was a very solid guard. Like, he was a very solid point guard in his first ever season being a point guard. So I'd have no problem with him being a point guard once again. But again, that's just me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. But that is all that I really have for my predictions, and that is it for the show. So thank you so much for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. And as I said before, we love to hear what you guys have to say during the show, whether you guys have a hot take, a burning question, or just anything you're dying to share. We're all ears. If you really want your comment or question to get noticed, then I recommend using Super Chat. You just click on the $ below the chat box, and you can send in your comments and or donations that way. Really helps. And if Super Chat's not really your thing, then that's fine. You could always use the link displayed below the ticker on every show segment, gsmcpodcast.net, and you can send in your comments and or donations that way. That's all that I really have to say. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't